Dumba Jumden de Java Tajumba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Riba Dan Shazu Demba Devara Java Jiden Jemba Jebun Deve Galo Jorva Lana Meba Lada Menam Je Dumba Sanje Jumden de Pejava Shaja Tuba La Chazel Chudu Yaso Che Ho Damba Jumden de Shin Shewa Tajumba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Rigba Dan Shason Devara Jeva Jigden Jamba Jebu Dube Galo Jorba Lana Meba Lada Menam Je Dumba Sanje Jumden de Pejawa Shaja Toba La Chaze Lo Chudo Che Ho Dumba Jumden de Deshin Shewa Tajumba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Rigwa Dan Shazu Demba Devara Java Jiden Jamba Jebo Deve Kalo Jorva Lana Meva Lada Menam Je Tomba Sanje Jumden De Bejava Jaja Doba La Chaze Lo Chedo Jazo Che Ho Sanje Jodan Soje Chonama La Chanju Pado Dane Jazo Dagi Chushin Jibe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Dobara Shoy Sanje Jodan Soje Chonama Ala Chanju Bado Tane Jauso Dagi Chushin Jibe Sonam Dola Penje Sanje Dobara Shoy Sanje Jodan Soje Chonama Ala Chanju Pado Tane Jauso Dagi Chushi Jebe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Drupa Rinpoche. Excuse me. Yeah, let's see. Good morning to all of you. It's been quite a while since we had our last class. So today we are going to start chapter 8 of Bodhicaryavatara. So this chapter is about concentration. So just to prepare, we have already covered the stages of concentration that eventually leads to shamatha. So we have already covered that chapter. So let's just refresh our memory. So just the outline of Bodhicaryavatara. So we recite these prayers. O precious and sublime bodhicitta, may it arise in those in whom it has not arisen. May it never decline where it has arisen, but go on increasing further and further. So that's the one verse of prayers that we normally include in our dedication. So that kind of outlines provides the outline of Shantideva's Bodhicaryavatara. So Bodhicaryavatara consists of 10 chapters. So we can divide these chapters, the first 9 chapters, into these 3 categories. So the first one is the means to cultivate bodhicitta. So when one has not developed or cultivated bodhicitta, so what are the means? How can we cultivate bodhicitta? How can we generate bodhicitta? So that the first 3 chapters entails or covers that section, means to cultivate bodhicitta that has not arisen. Then comes the subsequent 3 chapters. So let's just go through the chapter. So first 3 chapters are the benefit of the awakening mind, where Shantideva extols the benefits of generating the awakening mind, or what is called the bodhicitta. And then the second chapter is on confession. In order to develop, we need to first purify any hindrances, any heavy negative karmas that can hinder in cultivating bodhicitta. And then this is followed by actual generating bodhicitta. So in this first 3 chapters, we can see that first we understand the benefits that will make us kind of inspires us to wish to cultivate bodhicitta and then we do the purification practice, and eventually we cultivate the bodhicitta. So that's the first 3 chapters. So the next 3 chapters are the means to sustain bodhicitta that has already arisen. So now that we are able to develop or cultivate bodhicitta, it is important to sustain that, to keep it going. So comes the next 3 chapters: conscientiousness, vigilant introspection, and patience. So we have covered all these 3 chapters. And finally, there are 3 chapters that help us to enhance bodhicitta that has already arisen. So that involves the chapter of meditative concentration, perseverance, meditative concentration, and wisdom. So these are the 3 chapters that help us to enhance or improve the bodhicitta that has already arisen. So we didn't really cover the actual chapter, the whole chapter on perseverance. If time permits, or maybe later we can come back. But first I wanted to cover the meditative concentration, because His Holiness advises or recommends several chapters out of these 9 chapters. So what I am about to discuss today, the chapter on the meditative concentration, is one of the lists under the recommendations by His Holiness. So this chapter begins by saying that having developed enthusiasm in this way, I should place my mind in concentration. So of course, this chapter is followed, this concentration chapter is a subsequent chapter of perseverance. So it is understood as you have already covered the chapter of perseverance, but we did not. So I wanted to give a summary so that we have at least covered the basics of perseverance, and then we can continue on with the meditative concentration, the chapter on meditative concentration. So what is perseverance? So from the Buddhist point of view, perseverance is a delight in doing virtue, or enthusiasm for engaging in virtue. It's not just simply putting effort and working hard, but the main component, main characteristics, main feature of the Buddhist version of perseverance is having delight, having enthusiasm. Not just doing for the sake of something, but one must really enjoy, find joy in doing that. Remember, there was this story about a monk who went to see His Holiness. In the mountains of Dharamsala, there are many monks doing retreats. And there was one particular monk, he has been doing meditation for years and years. But he felt that there was no real progress in his spiritual endeavors. So he was fortunate to have an audience with His Holiness. And then he kind of complained that, oh no, I have been meditating and doing my retreat for the last how many years. But he said, I don't see much result. So His Holiness' advice was that when you go back to your retreat hut, Just walk in the street of Meklotganj. So there's a tiny, narrow street, but which is very busy. You have these stalls on the roadsides, and because that Dharamsala is a tourist place, there are lots of tourists. So the first advice is just go and observe what people are doing. And then second, when you get home or get to your cave, retreat cave, read the patience chapter. So that was the advice. So he followed. So on his way back, he spent some time walking in the street, observing people. And he realized that all those people who seem to be very busy and really engrossed with some things, but these are all worldly things. They appears to be clueless of the importance of Dharma practice. To them, it appears that what they are doing, the worldly things, is the most important thing. So he realized that, oh, what I have been doing has been meaningful. And then he started reading the chapter on patience, and he realized for the first time that patience is not about perseverance, sorry. So perseverance is not about putting effort, not simply putting effort. It is about finding joy in whatever you are putting effort in. So that's why we need to find joy in our Dharma practice. We need to see the meaning and purpose. Once we are able to see the meaning and purpose, then we are more likely to engage in such practices with delight and joy. So that's why you notice that in any teachings in the Dharma text, it always begins with extolling the benefit of the particular practice, because this is to inspire us to engage in the practice, to pursue the practice with delight and joy. So that's very important. So what are the benefits of engaging in perseverance? So there are so many benefits, but Maitreya summarizes the benefits. It says, joyous perseverance is a supreme among virtues. Based on it, you subsequently attain the rest. The reason for it being the supreme among virtues is that once you have perseverance, the other virtues, acts, or Dharma practices follows. Based on it, you subsequently attain the rest. If we have perseverance, then there is a possibility of attaining our goals. Through it, you immediately gain supreme state of joy, as well as the mundane and supramundane attainments. With joyous perseverance, you attain the pleasures desired in the life. Even if we think from the point of view of this worldly life, we need perseverance to achieve our goals. If we want to, be successful, if we want to be famous, if we want to gain material wealth, all this requires perseverance. Without perseverance, you cannot even find a job. Just the application, just applying, just submitting application requires perseverance. Just to give an example, I have finished the first unit of this chaplaincy course, and I wanted to offer my service to Hennepin HMC. But in order to volunteer there, I'm offering my volunteer service. In order to do that, I had to fill out so many forms and have to go and do this test and that test, the medical test. And not only that, after that, I have to do online course, which I have not yet started. So imagine, just to be allowed. I'm sure it's same with applying for jobs. You have to fill out so many forms, produce so many documents, and eventually you have to go through, 3 or 4 interviews. And then once you get the job, you have to persevere. You have to be on time. You have to work for a certain number of hours. So if you don't have that perseverance, then of course you will be fired from your job. So that's what it means. With joyous perseverance, you attain the pleasures desired in life. Even in this life, all the worldly gains are dependent on one's perseverance. Of course, not to mention about spiritual attainments. Become possessed of utter purity. So even ethical disciplines, one needs perseverance. One needs to change one's habit. It is very difficult. But when you take certain vows, you have to restrain from engaging in your habitual way. So these all requires effort and perseverance. And are liberated, transcending the views of the perishing aggregates. So this is wrong views. Eventually we have to eliminate the wrong views, self-grasping and all that. That also requires, first of all, requires to understand. For that you have to study and then reflect, and eventually you have to spend hours and hours meditating on the topic itself, on the subject itself. Only then there is the possibility of really eradicating the root cause of our problems. And reach Buddhahood, the supreme enlightenment. And Bodhisattva's practices are not easy. There are countless challenges. We can tell from our own experience how, even in one day, how many difficult people we encounter, and we are supposed to liberate them. So it can be very discouraging. But if we lack perseverance, we may abandon that intention, that bodhicitta. So that's the importance, that's the benefits of having perseverance. And then we talked about the types of perseverance. So there are 3 types of perseverance. Armor-like perseverance, perseverance of gathering virtue, perseverance of acting for the welfare of living beings or sentient beings. So what is armor-like perseverance? So this is best illustrated in the Lama Choba's prayer. Even if I must remain for an ocean of eons in the fiery hell of Avicii, For the sake of even just one sentient being, I seek your blessings to complete the perfection of joyous effort that out of compassion untiringly strives for supreme enlightenment. Samjin riri chiyan narmebe, mena gyaba gyazu ne kwe kyang, ningji me gyo, chaju chosun bes. So we need to have that kind of, determination. Even if I have to remain in the hell for eons, just to save, just to help one sentient being, it's like, I will do so. So that is like armor, like perseverance. So normally it is like, we may feel that it is not worthy. It's just one person there and you are sacrificing your life or your time for thousands of years, not in a comfortable condition or situation, in a fiery hell. So ordinarily we'll think that it is not worthwhile. But as a Bodhisattva practice, as a Bodhisattva practitioner, non-Bodhisattvas will have that kind of attitude, that no matter what the number is, no matter how much I have to undergo pain and suffering, as long as I can be benefit to that particular sentient being, I will endure it. So that's what it means by armor like perseverance. So when we have that kind of attitude, when we have that kind of determination, then it is like we are wearing an armor. When army go to war in olden days, they wear armors. That is to prevent or protect oneself from the other's weapon. So when we have that kind of attitude, then no matter how difficult the journey is, how many challenges we face, we will be impenetrable. We will be like wearing armor. We cannot be deterred. That's what is called armor like perseverance. And then perseverance of gathering virtue, applying yourself to the practice of the sixth perfection in order to properly accomplish them. So armor like perseverance, you have adopted that kind of attitude, but just merely having that kind of attitude will not go far, will not be able to successfully help liberate sentient beings. In order to be able to really help sentient beings, one needs to engage in practices. So this is like, I will endure any hardship when it comes to engaging in the practices of six perfections and all the other virtuous practices, so that I can become Buddha and then I can be of help to sentient beings. So that's perseverance of gathering virtue, your determination to do virtue in order to help sentient beings. Finally, perseverance of acting for the welfare of living beings. So that means applying yourself to the practice of, here it says 11 activities for other welfare, but basically whatever health or activities that can benefit sentient beings. Let's say teaching, showing the path. Sometimes it can be difficult, it can be challenging. You may want to rest. You may be too tired, too exhausted from a previous work or whatever it is. But when somebody requests for teaching or sought help, one will endure the hardship. Even though you are tired, you are exhausted, but you still accommodate and help. So that kind of engaging in helpful behavior is called perseverance of acting for the welfare of living beings. So now, what are the obstacles to perseverance? The main obstacle is laziness. We all know that. But from the Buddhist point of view, there are three forms of laziness. The first one is the laziness of attachment to ordinary activities. We keep ourselves so busy with worldly things. If we try to recollect what we did yesterday, from morning, the minute we open our eyes, from the time we went to sleep, if you try to rewind that the time of the day, we will find that most of our actions are not Dharma actions. Most of them are ordinary, worldly things. So why it is called laziness is because that prevents us from engaging in Dharma activities, in Dharma practice. We know most of the people, the working people, they cannot practice, they cannot attend this teaching, that teaching, because I have to do this, I have to go to work, I have to attend to my children, I have to drive my kids, and sometimes I have to attend to my pets. I cannot come to class because there's nobody at home to look after my pets, my dog, my cats, I don't know. So we really busy ourselves with meaningless, from the Buddhist point of view, from the Dharma point of view, meaningless activities. And that prevent us from engaging in Dharma practices. That's one form of laziness. The another form of laziness is the laziness of procrastination. We may not be so engrossed, so entangled in the worldly activities, and we realize that it is meaningless to busy ourselves with worldly things. And we may also have this, I must practice, I must do some Dharma practices, serious Dharma practices. But then this laziness of procrastination comes in. Yeah, I see the point. Yeah, I want to really focus on Dharma practices, but maybe I'll do that later when I finish this and that. Let me first retire. Let me first make enough money so that I can peacefully, without worrying about my financial needs, I can focus on Dharma practice. Many people think that, especially among Tibetans. Many believe, or many have this view, that Dharma practices is after your retirement, or for old people, elderly people. It's like you run out of other things to do, so now you come back to Dharma practice. But that's not the case. So that is a very kind of dangerous form of laziness. We keep putting it aside. We keep prioritizing the worldly things, other things. That's the laziness of procrastination. And then they have there is something called the laziness of belittling ourselves. That is like undermining our own capacity. You have all the first, you are not attached, not so much attached to worldly things. You also wanted to really start, but you said that, oh, I am too stupid to even understand, let alone practice. I'm not good at meditation. I won't be able to do it. Bodhicitta, no, this is not for me. I'm not that kind of person. So we always undermine our own ability. And that kind of deter us from practicing. Some people will say, oh, doing puja, or puja is no, I cannot do any puja, I cannot read. But there are Tibetans who are illiterate, but only at the age of, 60, 70, they started to learn how to read and write so that they can read or recite prayers. And now they can. And they attend prayers and recite together with others. So, how do we counter these forms of laziness? So the first two, the laziness of attachment, there's a laziness of attachment ordinary activity, is we have to contemplate, meditate on the meaninglessness, the essencelessness of worldly activities. Most of the time, our main goal is to amass wealth. We spend most of the time chasing after wealth, fame. But when we think of all this from the impermanent nature of things, then we realize that it is not really worth our effort. Of course, we need resources, but it's not like, investing all our effort and time to that. And laziness or procrastination. So the best antidote is to reflect on the impermanence, death, how death is certain and time of death is uncertain. So we cannot afford to put aside the Dharma practice, hoping that we will have plenty of time in the future, because we don't know that. We may die tomorrow. We may not be awake tonight. We may not be alive tonight. So there's no guarantee. We cannot reason that, oh, I'm still healthy and young, so I won't die soon. There's no guarantee. We know from our own experience. So when we are able to think in this way, then we will be able to counter the first two forms of laziness. And the final one, the laziness of discouragement or the belittling ourselves. We have to reflect or remind ourselves that we all have what is called the Buddha nature. We have the seed, we have the potential to become Buddha. Even the insects, Buddha said that even there are stories that even insects and animals, if they put effort, they can become Buddha. They can progress in the spiritual path. They can achieve various levels of realizations. So if the insects and animals can do so, then why not us? We are far better equipped than the insects. We are more intelligent. We have bigger brains. We can discern what is right and what is wrong. So when we reflect on these points, then we will be kind of encouraged. We will be able to dispel this wrong or this misconception that I am not good enough for Dhamma practice. So now, after being covered, after covering a little bit about perseverance, now we can begin the chapter of concentration. So the chapter begins. Tēdar tsundu kēne ni yini tingin zin la sha, semne nambara yengbe mi nyomo chewe tana ne. Having developed enthusiasm in this way, I should place my mind in concentration. For the man whose mind is distracted dwells between the fangs of disturbing conceptions. So in terms of our topics, so it is divided into two main headings. So first, or maybe three different headings. So the first one is what you call instructions on concentration, and then it talks about the unfavorable conditions for concentration, developing concentration, and then how one can develop concentration. So the first one is more like a summary. So this is like the importance that we must develop concentration. So it begins by having developed enthusiasm. Even though one has developed enthusiasm, one's degree or level of enthusiasm is quite high. But if we lack in concentration, then we won't be able to get far. Having developed enthusiasm in this way, I should place my mind in concentration. So I have to develop this state of mind which has the ability to rest or place wherever I wish, according to my wish, and also to be stable on a particular object. So without developing certain degree of concentration, we fail to do that. We may want to do some practice, some meditation, but our minds keeps wandering. Because of this lack of this ability, we are unable to see the results. And when we fail to see results, then we get discouraged. For the man whose mind is distracted dwells between the fangs of disturbing conceptions. So now the reason, why is that the case? Why should I place my mind in concentration? This is followed by this. For the man whose mind is distracted dwells between the fangs of disturbing conceptions. In the picture you saw the fangs of this lion. So nobody, no animals wants to be in between the fangs of tiger or lion or whatever it is. So here the fangs of disturbing, so fang is more is an analogy to signify the afflictions. If we don't have control of our minds, if we let our mind wander wherever it wants to, then there is a potential danger. What happens is then afflictions arises within us. We see something attractive, we develop attachment. We see something unpleasant, we develop aversion and even anger. So these are dangerous. Remember when it talks about the potential danger caused by afflictive emotions, we covered in chapter 4, which says, Kade lhada laminam tada jijan narme tamje thage chalanja tada jijan narme be mena teaching ju minutes. Even if all the god and demigods stood against us as our enemies, there is no more damage caused by them compared to the damages caused by afflictions. Ordinarily, if you are one person facing even 10 human beings, 10 men, that 10 persons can cause so much damage to you. But here it's saying that all the gods and demigods, they are in terms of their weapon and everything, they are most powerful. And you stand no chance at all. And the destruction they may cause, the harm they may inflict, would be like unimaginable. But here Shantideva says that that is just a child compared to the harm and damages one's own affliction can cause, is no comparison to that. Nyomo topden chadi kanda tena rirabjang tewayani miluba teda kechi chila tors. So the harm and damage caused by our own affliction is so great that it is like, its power is like the minute it touches even a huge mountain, it can bring down in 1 second into ashes. So that's the comparison Shantideva made. So that's why it is so important to be able to tame our mind, to have certain degree of control of our minds. So that's why it is important to develop concentration. Without that, we will be like coming between the fangs of a wild animal. Verse 2. Luda semni umbayi nambara yenwa mijungos. So now it talks about the unfavorable conditions for developing concentrations. What are those? But through solitude of body and mind, no distraction will occur. So now question is, how can we eliminate the distractions? So first we need to identify what causes distraction. What are the unfavorable conditions for developing concentration? Lü da semni önba nambara yanwa mi jungos. So one what you call unfavorable condition is one of the unfavorable condition is when we have close connections, or when we have attachments, or when we spend when we are associated with our loved ones, friends. That is one. And then the other one is when we let our minds wander, and then let our mind to have all these negative thoughts or afflictive emotions. So in order to prevent that, we need to what is called the solitude of body and mind. We need to distance ourselves from these associations that give rise to all kinds of distractions, all kinds of afflictive emotions. So one needs to physically distance. That means we have to remain in solitude. So these are the what you call the ways or means, especially for beginners. Once you have reached certain degree of concentration, of course, to remain in solitude is not that critical. But as a beginner, these help us. That we can tell from our own experience. When you live alone, there's less likely to have many distractions, and especially afflictive emotions. When we associate with people, when we meet with friends, when we have gatherings, there is always a lot of opportunities for the afflictions to arise. So for that reason, people go to very remote places in Tibet and all those Himalayan regions. One will see so many caves in the forest, in the mountains. And the picture you see is that of a famous Padmasambhava's retreat cave, later turned into a gomba. It's called Taktsang, Paro Taktsang. So now, of course, they have built ways to get there. But during that time, nobody can get there, because they always choose that kind of place where nobody will come and distract them from their meditation. In Tibet, sometimes the meditator or the retreater, they keep changing. So when they go to a place and then will start doing the meditation there for a while, people will come to know about the retreater, and then they keep coming to see. And then when the retreater feels that, oh, there's a lot of distraction, then he just moves to another place. So these all suggest the importance of living in a solitude place or remote place where you have very little interaction with people. Therefore, Luda semne umbayi number yangwa me jungos, tewe jigden pangjashi number tokwa yongsu torus. So in order to eliminate afflictions, one needs to develop concentration, certain degree of concentration. In order to develop concentration, for the beginners, one needs to forsake the worldly life. That's what it says. One needs to distance oneself from all the worldly interactions. Therefore, I should forsake the worldly life and completely discard distorted conceptions. So here we are talking about the physical solitude and mental solitude. So physical solitude is distancing ourselves, having less contact with other people, remaining more and more in solitude. The mental solitude is avoiding afflictive emotions to arise, negative emotions arise in our mind. So when we are physically away from let me rephrase. So when we remain in solitude, there is less likelihood of all kinds of afflictions arising. So that is quite true in a sense that I live alone, and when I meet friends after a while, after some time, then I hear lots of stories, interesting stories sometimes. But all these stories brings about different emotions, sometimes negative emotions, rarely kind of positive emotions. So in that sense, I have been spared from all this. So there is benefit. Number toba yongsun dorus. So now Shantideva goes into explaining in detail Jigdin Pongwa Namdo Dorwas. So there are two subheadings. So first is to discard or abandon worldly life, and then to discard the afflictive emotions. So there are four. First is the reason why one needs to abandon the worldly life. Chakbe chirdang nye sokla sebe jigden mibong tes. Worldly life is not forsaken because of attachment to people. and due to craving for material gains and the like. So what ties us to worldly thing is the attachment to our loved ones, our friends, our relatives, our children, our spouse, our partners, and then also craving for material gain. We have this attachment or craving for wealth, for fame, for power, for authority. So all this hinder us from forsaking the worldly life, to remain in solitude physically and mentally. So that's why it says, therefore, I should entirely forsake these things, since these are the things that tie us, that keep us tied to the worldly life. I should entirely forsake these things, for this is the way in which the wise behave. So after realizing that our attachment to our loved ones and also our attachment to worldly gains, worldly possessions, these keep us entangled in the world. Understanding that, Shantideva was saying that we need to forsake these things. And the wise have done that. Bodhisattvas have done that. So if we call ourselves a follower or a practitioner of Bodhisattva path, then it says that first step is to do that. But of course, forsake worldly life can be interpreted in different ways, especially for lay people. It is impossible. It may be impossible at the moment. You cannot simply drop everything and go to jungles or caves. So the most important thing is to reduce our craving and attachment. So when we are able to do that, then there is less likely of giving rise to afflictive emotions. The greater our attachment to things, the likelihood of engendering afflictive emotion is greater. If you have such a strong attachment to your new car, even a scratch, if somebody causes a tiny little scratch, one can become so angry and so unhappy. Whereas if you have no attachment, then no matter what happens, even a huge dent cannot deter you, cannot destroy your peace of mind. So in that sense, it's not so much about really going to jungles. It's about reducing attachment. So now is like, how should we go about? How should we develop that kind of concentration? How should we go about developing that particular antidote? So this is it says, Shine rabdo tembe laudongi nyumo nambara jomba she chene tomar shine tse cha tenyani jigden chapa mela mwenge doos. So the antidote is as having understood that disturbing conceptions are completely overcome by superior insight endowed with calm abiding, First of all, I should search for calm abiding. This is achieved through the genuine joy of this unattached to worldly life. So here is that we have to understand, first of all, we have to understand that we need to overcome or eradicate all the afflictive emotions. That is only possible by the means of insight, the insight into emptiness, the wisdom realizing the true nature of phenomena. So we need that special wisdom. But that special wisdom only arises upon achieving shamatha or calm abiding. So first we need to understand that. After understanding this, then first of all I should search for calm abiding. This also shows the sequence. There is no way one can achieve or attain special insight, this special wisdom, realizing emptiness, without first developing or cultivating calm abiding. So there is a sequence. First you develop calm abiding, and then you can develop the special insight. With that special insight founded on calm abiding, one can sever the root cause of samsara. So this is achieved through the genuine joy of this unattached to worldly life. So what does that mean? Jigni Chaba Mela. So first of all, in order to develop or in order to achieve that, one need to develop kind of aversion towards afflictive emotions like attachment, hatred, anger, all this. And then also one needs to have this positive attitude towards concentration, shamatha, and all that. So only through that one can achieve the calm abiding, and then through that one can achieve special insight, and then with this true union of the two, one can achieve the overcoming of complete overcoming of disturbing conceptions. Okay, so from here onwards is a different heading. This is now talking about the disadvantages of, or the faults of having these kind of attachments to our loved ones, because our attachment hinders our developing concentration, our being able to remain in solitude. So from this onwards, the first several verses are on the faults of developing this kind of attachment towards others. So we will stop here today, and then we will continue from continue in our next class. Okay, thank you. Let's do our dedication. Dagi jinyi sabe yawa de tendan rowa kunla kangben dan kevara jizun losan tabai Dembe nyingbo rendo zeje sho jambe bawe jedara kemba dan kundo zambo tenyang dejen Deda Quingi Jesu Talo Je Jawa Deda Damje Ravdo Ngo Dezun Jeve Jawa Damje Ngowa Gala Jodo Ngawa De Dagi Jeve Zawa De Gwenja Zangbo Jeje Ravdo Ngo Bara Jes. Thank you.